Your silence turned the table Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, was being publicly humiliated by his own son. The entire Senate watched. His advisors waited for his explosive response. But instead, he did something that changed everything. He stayed silent. And in that silence, he won. Today, I'm going to show you how your silence can become your greatest weapon. How it can turn the tables in any situation, command respect, and give you power that words never could. This isn't about being passive. This is about mastering one of the most misunderstood principles of Stoicism. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand why the strongest people in history chose silence over speech, and how you can use this ancient wisdom to transform your modern life, where we dive deep into timeless wisdom for modern warriors. If you're new here, we explore Stoic philosophy not as dusty old books, but as practical tools for real-world success and inner strength. Before we begin, let me ask you something. When was the last time someone tried to provoke you? Maybe a colleague undermined you in a meeting, or someone cut you off in traffic and gestured rudely, or perhaps someone posted something online designed to get under your skin. What was your first instinct? To respond immediately? To defend yourself? To prove them wrong? What if I told you that your silence, in that moment, could have been far more powerful than any words you could have spoken? If you find value in today's content, the algorithm loves it when you hit that like button early, so go ahead and do that now. And if you want more content like this, subscribe and ring that notification bell. Part 1, the misconception of silence. Let's start by destroying a massive misconception. In our hyper-connected, always-on world, silence is often seen as weakness. We're told to speak up, make your voice heard. Don't let them walk over you. But here's what most people don't understand. There's a profound difference between the silence of the weak and the silence of the strong. The weak person's silence, born from fear, comes from not knowing what to say, stems from feeling powerless, is reactive and emotional. The strong person's silence, born from wisdom, comes from choosing not to engage, stems from understanding true power, is intentional and strategic. Let me tell you about Sarah, a marketing executive I know. She was in a board meeting when a colleague publicly questioned her competence. In front of the CEO, the old Sarah would have immediately defended herself, would have listed her achievements, would have counterattacked. But Sarah had been studying Stoicism. Instead, she looked at him calmly, took a slow breath, and simply said nothing. The room fell silent. The colleague began to look uncomfortable. The CEO watched with interest. In that silence, something powerful happened. The colleague's attack began to look petty and unprofessional. Sarah's composure made her appear confident and dignified. When she finally spoke, 5 seconds later, she simply said, "I'll let my work speak for itself." That silence turned the entire dynamic. The CEO later told her privately that her response showed true leadership. This is what we're talking about. Silence as strategy, not surrender. Part 2, the Stoic masters and their silence. Now let's look at how the great Stoic masters used silence as their secret weapon. Marcus Aurelius, the silent emperor. Marcus Aurelius faced constant criticism, both as emperor and as a philosopher. Roman society was brutal in its politics. Yet in his personal journal, which we now know as Meditations, he writes, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does." When his own son Commodus publicly disrespected him, Marcus didn't explode in anger. He didn't publicly discipline him. He chose silence in that moment, understanding that reacting emotionally would diminish his authority. But here's the crucial part. This wasn't passive silence. Marcus was actively choosing the response that would best serve the situation. Sometimes he would address issues privately later. Sometimes he would let natural consequences teach the lesson. Epictetus, the power of non-engagement. Epictetus, who went from slave to one of Rome's most respected teachers, understood something profound about human nature. He taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But he took this further. He understood that sometimes the most powerful reaction is no reaction at all. There's a story about Epictetus being insulted by a wealthy Roman. citizen who was trying to show off in front of his friends. Instead of defending himself or engaging in a war of words, Epictetus simply continued his lesson as if nothing had happened. The wealthy man became increasingly frustrated, his insults becoming more desperate. Eventually, he looked foolish in front of his own friends. Epictetus had won without saying a word in response to the attacks. Seneca, the strategic silence. Seneca, advisor to emperors, faced constant political intrigue. He wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind made steady and stable by long practice is not moved by the novelty of any event." Seneca understood that in the dangerous world of Roman politics, those who reacted quickly to every provocation rarely survived long. His strategic silence allowed him to observe, understand, and respond from a position of strength rather than emotion. Now, I want you to think about this. Can you remember a time when staying silent would have served you better than speaking? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read every single comment, and I'd love to hear your stories. Part 3. The Science Behind Silence. You might be thinking, this is all nice philosophy, but does silence really work in the real world? Let me show you the science. Psychological Principle 1, the discomfort gap. Humans are naturally uncomfortable with silence in social situations. We're wired to fill gaps in conversation. When you remain silent after someone attacks you or tries to provoke you, you create what psychologists call a discomfort gap. The other person feels compelled to fill this gap. And here's what happens. They often end up saying too much, revealing their true intentions, or making themselves look unreasonable. Real-world example. I witnessed this in a salary negotiation. My friend Jake was told by his boss that he didn't deserve a raise because his performance was average. Instead of immediately defending himself, Jake stayed silent, just looked at his boss and waited. The boss became uncomfortable with the silence and continued talking. "I mean, you're not terrible, you do good work. It's just that budgets are tight and well, maybe we could look at a smaller increase." In 30 seconds of silence, the boss had gone from no raise to smaller increase. Jake's silence had created space for the boss to reconsider his own position. Psychological Principle 2, the Authority Paradox. Research shows that people who speak less in group settings are often perceived as more thoughtful, more authoritative, and more confident. This is called the authority paradox. When you feel the need to defend every point, explain every action, or respond to every criticism, you actually appear less secure in your position. Psychological Principle 3, the emotional reset. Neuroscience tells us that when we're triggered emotionally, our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for rational thinking, goes offline. This is the famous fight-or-flight response. Silence gives your brain time to reset. It allows rational thought to return. It prevents you from saying something you'll regret later. The power dynamics of silence. In any interaction, there are subtle power dynamics at play. The person who feels compelled to react immediately is often in the weaker position. They're being controlled by the other person's actions. The person who can remain calm, who can pause, who can choose their response rather than react automatically, they hold the real power. Think about it. Who seems more in control? The person shouting and gesticulating wildly, or the person standing calmly listening and choosing their words carefully? Part 4, Practical Applications. All right, let's get practical. How do you actually implement this in your daily life? Situation 1. Workplace conflicts. You're in a meeting and a colleague criticizes your project in front of everyone. Your instinct is to defend immediately. The Stoic silence approach. Take a slow, deep breath. Count to 3 in your head. Look at them calmly. If you must respond, ask a clarifying question. What specifically would you change? This puts the burden of being constructive back on them while making you appear thoughtful and professional. Real example. Lisa, a software engineer, used this when her project was criticized in a team meeting. Her silence and thoughtful response led the critic to admit he hadn't fully reviewed her code. The team's respect for Lisa increased significantly. Situation 2, social media arguments. Someone posts something inflammatory. on your social media, or attacks you personally online. The Stoic silence approach. Don't respond immediately. Often don't respond at all. Here's why this works. Online arguments are performance theater. The person attacking you wants an audience. When you don't engage, you remove their stage. Often their friends will even turn on them for being unnecessarily aggressive to someone who isn't fighting back. Situation 3, family drama. A family member tries to drag you into old patterns of conflict during a gathering. The Stoic silence approach. Instead of defending yourself or counterattacking, try this response. A calm look and then, "I understand you feel that way." This neither agrees nor disagrees. It doesn't escalate. It acknowledges their feeling without accepting responsibility for changing it. Situation 4, road rage and public confrontations. Someone cuts you off in traffic or confronts you in public. The Stoic silence approach. Remember that engaging with an emotionally dysregulated person rarely ends well. Your silence isn't cowardice, it's wisdom. You're choosing not to let someone else's poor emotional regulation control your day. The advanced technique, the pause protocol. Here's a technique. I call the pause protocol that you can use in any challenging situation. 1, stop. Don't react immediately. 2, breathe. Take 1 deep breath to reset your nervous system. 3, observe. What is really happening here? What does this person actually want? 4, choose. What response best serves you in the situation? This entire process takes 10-15 seconds, but it can save you from hours, days, or even years of unnecessary conflict. When not to use strategic silence. Let's be clear. There are times when you absolutely should speak up. When someone's safety is at risk. When you're witnessing injustice against someone vulnerable. When your silence would be interpreted as agreement with something morally wrong. When you're in a leadership position and clarity is needed. Strategic silence is a tool, not a life philosophy. The key is knowing when to use it. Now I want to challenge you. For the next week, try the pause protocol 3 times. Pick 3 situations where you would normally react immediately and instead, pause. Use the 4-step process. Come back and tell me in the comments what happened. I guarantee you'll be surprised by the results. Part 5. The deeper philosophy. Let's go deeper into why this works on a philosophical level. The Stoics understood something profound about human nature. Most people are driven by their emotions, by their need for validation, by their fear of looking weak. When you master strategic silence, you're demonstrating that you're not controlled by these drives. You're showing that you operate from a different level of consciousness. The principle of internal locus of control. The Stoics taught that true power comes from focusing on what you can control and releasing what you cannot. You cannot control what other people say about you, whether people like you, how people interpret your actions, other people's emotions or reactions. You can control your response to what people say, your own emotional state, your actions, your words when you choose to speak. Strategic silence is the embodiment of this principle. You're choosing not to be controlled by external provocations. The paradox of strength. Here's something beautiful about Stoic silence. The stronger you become internally, the less you need to prove externally. Weak people need constant validation. They need to win every argument. They need to defend every criticism. They need everyone to understand their perspective. Strong people can absorb criticism without being damaged by it. They can let others be wrong about them. They can let misunderstandings exist without feeling compelled to correct them immediately. This doesn't mean being a doormat. It means being so secure in your own worth that you don't need external validation to confirm it. The long game. The Stoics were always thinking about the long game. Marcus Aurelius writes, "Confine yourself to the present." But he also understood that present actions create future realities. When you respond to every provocation, you train others to provoke you. When you maintain strategic silence, you train others that you're not easily manipulated. Over time, people stop trying to push your buttons because they learn it doesn't work. The ripple effect. Your calm presence in challenging situations doesn't just benefit you. It changes the entire dynamic for everyone involved. When you refuse to escalate, others often de-escalate as well. Your silence gives everyone in the situation permission to step back from unnecessary conflict. You become what the Stoics called a sage, someone whose wisdom elevates everyone around them. Part 6, Implementation and Mastery. Let's talk about how to actually master this skill. Level 1, the beginner. Start with low-stakes situations. Practice the pause protocol when someone cuts in line, when you receive a mildly annoying email, when someone makes a thoughtless comment. Level 2, the intermediate. Apply strategic silence to workplace conflicts, family disagreements, and social media provocations. Level 3, the advanced. Use strategic silence in high-stakes negotiations, serious relationship conflicts, and situations where your reputation is on the line. Level 4, the master. Strategic silence becomes natural. You no longer have to think about it. You automatically respond rather than react. You've developed what the Stoics called ataraxia, unshakable calm. Daily practices to build this skill. Let morning intention setting. Each morning, set an intention to pause before reacting to challenging situations. 2-point evening reflection. Each evening, review your day. When did you react emotionally? When did you respond thoughtfully? What can you learn? Meditation. Even 10 minutes of daily meditation builds the mental muscle of observing thoughts without immediately acting on them. 4, reading Stoic texts. Regular reading of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca reinforces these principles. The 90-day challenge. I want to leave you with a challenge. For the next 90 days, commit to practicing strategic silence. Keep a journal of situations where you chose silence over immediate reaction. Note the outcomes. I predict that within 90 days, you'll see significant changes in how people treat you, your stress levels, your relationships, your professional reputation, your self-confidence. Your silence turned the tables. Not because silence is magic, but because silence is wisdom in action. When you master strategic silence, you're not just learning a technique. You're embodying one of the deepest principles of Stoic philosophy, that true power comes from within, and that the strongest response is often no response at all. Remember Marcus Aurelius in that Senate chamber? His silence in the face of his son's disrespect didn't make him look weak. It made him look like an emperor. Someone so secure in his power that he didn't need to prove it to anyone. You have that same power. You've always had it. You just needed to remember how to use it. Take action now. 1, hit that like button if this video gave you value. 2, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more Stoic wisdom. 3, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. 4, comment below with your commitment to the 90-day challenge. What's next? Next week, I'm diving deep into the Stoic art of letting go. Why holding on is destroying your peace. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Your silence is not weakness. Your silence is strength. Your silence is not surrender. Your silence is strategy. Your silence is not empty. Your silence is full of power. Use it wisely. I'll see you in the next video.